your peers have reportedly clashed with Coinbase's Brian Armstrong over the Clarity Act, and specifically this idea of crypto exchanges offering rewards for stablecoins. And Armstrong was on CNBC with Sarah Eisen a few weeks ago from Mar-a-Lago, and he said there's a path forward for the market structure bill that's a, quote, win-win outcome for everyone. How are you feeling about it right now?
The banks feel strongly that there should be, rewards are the same as interest. And that, a compromise would be that you could pay rewards on transactions, not balances. If you are going to be holding balances and paying interest, that's the bank. You should be regulated by a bank. So we've been firm. One thing over here, yes, but if you want to be a bank, become a bank. Then you can do whatever you want under bank law. So I remind people, and your viewers may not know, banks have restrictions and requirements. FDIC insurance, AML, BSA. We have Community Responsibility Act, which means we have to open 25% of our business LMI neighborhood. We have social requirements. We have liquidity requirements, capital requirements, transparency requirements, reporting requirements, board requirements, governance requirements. If they want to be a bank, so be it. So what we basically says, level playing field by product. It can't be you have these people doing one thing, without any regulation like that, and these people do another. And if you do that, the public will pay. It will get bad. So people should take a deep breath at what is it you want. And we want competition. We're actually one of the biggest users of blockchain. And we created the JP Morgan deposit coin. We've moved money real-time payments. We're moving a lot of data now using blockchain. So we're in favor of competition, but it's got to be fair and balanced, level playing field.
Yo, Jamie Dimon says, I don't give a damn what Brian Armstrong and Coinbase is talking about. So on today's video, this is the question. Can the Clarity Act bill pass? If it does, crypto could be cooked. That's my thesis there. We've already been in some type of trouble with cryptocurrency. So as y'all join this stream, make sure y'all say what's good. Leave me a comment in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking, because on today's video, we'll be talking about the Clarity Crypto Act bill that is being held up right now. And that clip I just played you is from Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. This is the biggest bank in the world, okay? And they control a lot of the market. They control and have a lot of power over money, okay? So what he was talking about was a response to basically Coinbase and other crypto companies. Jamie Dimon essentially says, if you want to be like a bank and compete with banks, become a bank. Don't hold your Bitcoin, don't have your crypto, and you trying to tap in with our revenue models and our stream of income. If you want to be paying out yields from stable coins, which because of the Genius Act, if you're an issuer of stable coins, like for example, Circle, when they issue stable coins in partnership, let's say at Coinbase or a blockchain, the funds that they have, the money has to be back one-to-one. And usually they use US Treasuries. US Treasuries pay about 3-4%. That 3-4% they capture as revenue. And then Coinbase wants to pay that out to their customers, which will bring them more customers because that yield is better than what banks are paying. But Jamie Dimon's like, no, we take money from customers, we lend it out, and we make money from that. We're not going to let y'all run up in here and take our money. So that's what's happening right now. And that's why there's a problem. So I got a post that I want to show you that I thought was great example of why Jamie Dimon, why the bankers are not into the part of the Clarity Act, which allows people like Coinbase to pay out their customers. They're not into that. Okay, so let's check this post out. This is from the Wolf of All Streets. So essentially what he's saying, a man deposits $10,000 in a bank. A bank thanks him and records the deposit on its balance sheet, but not what you might expect. For the bank, that $10,000 is actually a liability because it technically belongs to the customer and might have to be returned. So the bank does what banks do. They lend $9,000 of that money to someone buying a car. And remember, when you have money, right? When you're lending out money, the bank has the ability to lend out roughly 90%, in some cases, all of it. This is called fractional reserve banking. They have reserves, but they lend it out, okay? So now something interesting happens. The $9,000 loan appears on the bank's books as an asset because someone now owes the bank money. So the same 10,000 is doing two jobs at once. I'm gonna summarize the rest up for y'all. Essentially, the same 10,000. So you loan the bank 10, they take 9 and loan it out to someone else. You receive 0.05% on your 10,000, which is barely anything. They take the 9 and lend it out at 7%, 9%, 12, 15%, right? Then that customer takes that money, buys that car, or send the money somewhere else. Then when that entity receives the money, they lend out 8,000. Then the cycle continues. Another entity lends out 7,000. Then the cycle continues. Another entity lends out 6,000, and it keeps going. So your 10,000 turns into tens and 30s and 40s of thousands, 50s of thousands, maybe even $100,000 worth of loans that everyone's making money off of. And all you received in return was 0.05%, like for a max. That's what's happening. And then Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, other crypto corporations and companies want to take a cut of those treasuries and earn, let's say, 1-2% themselves and send you 3%, which is a better deal for us. That's the decentralized nature of crypto. Banks are not handling that and having that. And then remember, I told y'all about Kraken yesterday, where we talked about Kraken gaining a Fed license for the Federal Reserve's payment rails. And what does that come with? That comes with a KYC. That comes with information, know your customer, anti-money laundering, all of that type of stuff. And even if this bill passes, that's the same thing that's going to happen, where your stable coins are going to be more treated like how the bank will treat your money. They want your ID, they want your social, they want everything from you so you can get your crypto rewards. And if it doesn't pass, you're still in the same situation. So we're in a situation in crypto where your money is going to be more and more behind a firewall of data and access, which is against the crypto thesis of peer-to-peer, pure transferable ownership type of money. That's where we're at. And I want to know what y'all think about this. But Jamie Dimon made it nice, simple, and clear. Like straight up, he says, if you want to be a bank, become a bank. Be your own bank with Bitcoin, right? That's the other little thing. But if you want to become a bank, be a bank. And you can be your own bank with Bitcoin in terms of DeFi, in terms of this and that. But if anybody was doing their taxes this year, you know that Coinbase and all the rest of the exchanges sent 1099s. They sent information to the IRS. They even counting stablecoin transactions. All of that is happening. They're tracking, y'all. They're tracking. So crypto, you got to play the game a lot different nowadays. Now let's go further into this Clarity Act information. Regulation. Banks reject White House stablecoin rewards deal and stall Clarity Act. Banks have rejected a compromise proposed by the White House on a major U.S. crypto bill, per Reuters. Officials attempted to broker a middle ground between banks and crypto companies. The proposal allowed stablecoin rewards in limited cases, such as peer-to-peer transfers between users. However, the plan prohibits incentives on idle stablecoin balances. So these are the important parts. The proposal allowed stablecoin rewards in limited cases, like peer-to-peer transfer, but not on idle. And most of the time, you want to earn money on your idle stablecoins. Crypto companies accepted the plan. Banks have rejected it, fearing large outflows. And again, if you got 10,000 in a bank, you can go put 10,000 on Coinbase and earn 4 or 5%. That's a way better deal, definitely. And Coinbase is also sending out loans. Okay, so check this next one out. This says, Senate representative says we can't hold up Clarity Act any longer. The United States of America is about to become the crypto capital of the world. Which is funny is ever since they said that, crypto has been going down. However, let's see what these senators have to say.
JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon has warned that Coinbase must play by the same rules as a bank, or, quote, the public will pay. Your thoughts on all of this? Where are you on this rewards issue between crypto and banks?
The House passed stablecoin legislation, and we're working to get through market structure legislation in the crypto space. To move forward on market structure legislation, we find ourselves watching the Senate renegotiate stablecoin legislation. I think some ways people are overplaying their concerns in this space. This was negotiated when it passed the House and Senate and was signed into law by the president. The use case for stablecoins is yet to be fully seen, but it's very clear that there is a major opportunity here to dollarize the global south. That is absolutely essential for U.S. dollar dominance and to maintain world reserve currency status. And so making sure that we allow innovation and development in this space, but also getting through market structure where broader crypto firms can innovate and develop and invest in the United States of America is absolutely essential. We can't hold up Clarity any longer.
JP Morgan.
And exactly. So that breakdown right there was very clear. And let me show y'all something else too, because this is definitely something interesting. So what he's talking about is like, hey, we got to get the dollar pushed, especially in the global south, places like Argentina and places in South America. If you can get the USDC there, and that means the dollar is spreading, okay? And if you want to check this one out, this is something that he's talking about, innovation. Okay, this is innovation right here. So this is from Moonwell, and I talked to y'all about Moonwell over the last year or so. Create a Moonwell virtual account today. Moonwell virtual accounts empower people worldwide to receive ACH transfers and wire payments from U.S. companies and individuals. Funds are instantly converted to USDC with zero fees, offering seamless access to the on-chain economy in Moonwell's flagship USDC vault for secure savings and long-term growth. So what they're talking about is you can work for a company, or someone can just basically send money to your virtual account, which means your money is going to be automatically converted to US dollars. That helps the United States of America because it puts more dollars into circulation. And then on the back end, those US treasuries are being purchased, or dollars are being held backed 1-to-1. That helps the United States. And then when you go look at these vaults, like this vault here, you can then earn 3% on your stablecoin. That's better than banks. Let's go see what banks are paying. Let's see what banks is paying. Let's see what banks are paying. Okay, let's see what banks paying. So a high yield savings account, okay, is paying 4 or 5%, but that changes. So what is banks paying for savings? Not a high yield. Let's look for a savings. Savings account, I guess the high version. I'm not even typing in the right thing right now, but we know a regular savings is really low. A high yield can compete with crypto right now, so we ain't mad at that. When rates change, that's when the rates go down. But however, as I pointed out, crypto, Coinbase, platforms like Moonwell is paying nice rates right now that fluctuate. Either way, Jamie Dimon, again, he's not into that. So this is kind of the other response here, what Jamie Dimon and the senators were talking about. So Trump urges passage of U.S. Clarity Act, attacks banks for undercutting Genius. So remember, he passed the Genius Act that made stablecoins clear. U.S. President Donald Trump said in a post on Truth Social that the banking industry is trying to undermine the stablecoin bill he signed into law. And, you know, Trump be saying all kind of stuff. U.S. President Trump's attacks banks in a Truth Social post saying they were upholding market structure legislation hostage over the opposition to stablecoin yield payouts. Trump urged speedy passage of the bill, saying it was important for the U.S. to remain at the forefront of crypto legislation. Negotiations are ongoing between the White House and crypto and the banking industry representatives over the language of the bill. And here's another quote here. The U.S. needs to get market structure done ASAP. Americans should earn more money on their money, he said in the Post. The banks are hitting record profits, and we're not going to allow them to undermine our powerful crypto agenda that will end up going to China and the other countries if we don't get to take care of the Clarity Act. That's funny. Let's see. But yeah, so basically they're all pushing. People are not having it. The bankers, rather, they want to make sure that they get all that money they can possibly get. But again, like we said, the average for a savings account, here's a national savings account average, and this is why they're doing this right here. The national savings account yield is at 0.61%. So it's a little over 0.5%, not even 1%, according to Bank Rates Survey of Institutions on March 6th of 2026. That is today. And the best high yield savings are paying around 4%. So top yielding savings accounts rates outpace average savings rates. So you got to have a high yield account, which has special rules and things there. But overall, like that 0.61 is terrible. And even this Moonwell right here is not even the greatest. I've seen it much higher, but this is paying 3.8. So that's 3.2% more money that you can get. If you even go look at the markets right here, yeah, 3.8% on the market, and even the vault is paying 3.8%. And then if you go to, that's the flagship. And if you go here to the vault, excuse me, that was just the flagship, you can get 7.7%, 7.3%. So that's a range of 3.8 to 7.3% on this platform. And I just showed y'all banks are paying 0.61%. This is why Jamie's speaking the way he's speaking. They don't want to mess up the money. And that's clear, y'all. Definitely clear. So they're urging them. They're trying to make it happen. We will see. And again, that's why my title, Can the Clarity Crypto Act Bill Pass? I think there's going to be a few more iterations happening. And if it does pass in the form that it is, this is going to hurt the innovation in the industry. It's going to really hurt you and I if we want to be saving money in crypto. All right. Next thing we're about to do, as we talked about that enough. Let's go look at some price charts, and we'll get into some updates on Algorand and Stellar Lumens. Okay, so let's check this out. This is what we got. Bitcoin sitting at 68,000. It was definitely like that earlier. Not much of a change today. Ethereum under 2,000. BNB 630. XRP 1.3. Solana at less than 85. And I asked y'all too about the XRP army. Will XRP go sub $1, which means under $1? Right now we're sitting at a fear and greed index of 20. The crypto total market cap, 95 billion in volume with a $2.33 trillion market cap. One company in the S&P 500, let's say Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, etc., is bigger than the whole industry. Y'all, let me know your thoughts about that. All right, the next thing I want to do, I want to talk to y'all about something that I think has been very interesting. And this is related to the predictions markets, the gambling markets. And this one is about the one that is built on Algorand called Alpha Arcade. Let's check this out. So here's the post by the Algorand Foundation. Alpha Arcade, Algorand's native prediction market, has recently broke their daily volume record of $3.3 million, broke into the top 3 predictions markets by transactions and top 10 by volume. seeing a 781% month-to-date increase in transaction volume and a 22% increase in MAUs, monthly average users. Introduced payments via credit card and Apple Pay. Introduced multi-chain payments. Since its launch, Alpha Arcade has generated over 50 million in volume. Now, check this out.
My name is Max, and I'm one of the founders at Alpha Arcade. Alpha Arcade is a trading platform where you can predict the outcome of future events.
What's good? Thanks
and so right now we're focused mainly on sports events, crypto, and algorithm-related events. But very soon we'll be moving into other categories, such as predicting the high temperature in Denver tomorrow, geopolitics, certain elections. And so essentially anything you can think of, you can now bet on. Each market has odds, of course, and there's yes shares and no shares. And a yes share means you're predicting that the event will happen, and a no share means you're predicting the event will not happen. And for example, if a yes share is 15 cents, that means there's a 15% chance of that event occurring. And so you can purchase that yes share for 15 cents. If you end up being correct, you win $1. And one of the best parts, in my opinion, is it's peer-to-peer. And so if you're purchasing a yes share at 15 cents, you are essentially betting against someone else that purchased a no share at 85 cents. And so it's all peer-to-peer, and you're not betting against the house, which in my opinion is one of the coolest parts about prediction markets, specifically decentralized prediction markets like Alpha Arcade. What prompted us to create this idea? One of my co-founders, Mark, and I, we like to gamble together, very small amounts. Funny enough, we're not actually very good at it, but we became really obsessed with Polymarket during the last election, like everyone else. And we just thought it was so cool that you can see these real-time odds updating for the election compared to polls, which come out randomly. And we noticed there was not a product like this on Algorand. And we've been using Algorand for so long, and our entire thesis is like, if you build an app on Algorand that's already on another blockchain, it will instantly be better because Algorand's tech is just so much better than any other blockchains. The product is just immediately much faster, it's much smoother, and it's much cheaper.
Okay, I like that breakdown. And it definitely makes sense. The numbers that I've just read off to you before that video, it's actually proving something. Myself, I'm not big on gambling or things of that nature. People call it predictions. You can call it betting, whatever it is. You're waging money in hopes of making money if you're making the correct decision on an outcome. Okay, yes or no. If you do it correctly and you win, you get the money, right? So what they were saying is that Algorand is a blockchain that is suited better for this type of thing rather than some of the other chains. Faster, the cheaper, the finality, the decentralized nature of this blockchain makes it a better product in general. And that's what they broke down in that video. So I think that was great. If y'all want to go watch the rest of that, go check that out. I believe it's on the Algorand Foundation's YouTube. I just pulled it from their Twitter or X account. So yeah, that's Alpha Arcade right there. I have tried it out. Y'all let me know if you tried it. What do you think there? And again, say what's good once you join the chat, and let me know if y'all have any questions about it. So the next thing we're going to talk about is some Stellar Lumen news. Okay, Stellar Lumens. Stellar Lumens has just made a bold statement. We know Stellar Lumens is usually working with like the UN or humanitarian aid. They're doing different things, okay? Algo is underrated in my opinion. Facts. Definitely underrated. I'm hoping that we can all bring in more attention, and just rightfully so, the best chains should be winning, but we will see. However, things like Alpha Arcade is definitely putting in the right direction. So Stellar is another, I'll say, hidden gem as well. So this is what they're doing. In sub-Saharan Africa, this is term that they use for saying below the Sahara, not Northern Africa, not Egypt, and a few of those countries up there. 47% of adults are unbanked. Among rural residents of the Gambia, beautiful country, the number is even higher. The result, individuals and aid organizations suffer. Freedom Pay Wallet is fixing that and has already distributed 60,000 USDC across the Gambia and Tanzania. And remember, they're also working with Marshall Islands for universal basic income. Stellar's been cooking. So that's what they got. Let's watch a little clip of this.
In the West, money moves in seconds. Tap, click, transfer. But for 1.7 billion people across the world, it isn't like that. Entire communities are locked out of the financial system. In sub-Saharan Africa, 45% of adults remain unbanked. And for 37% of them, the barrier is simply the lack of recognized ID. And it's not just individuals. NGOs and charities face the same barriers. The result? A system built to deliver support delivers failures.
You know, this also reminds me of a Hisab Pay built on Algorand for Afghanistan.
These are global problems. But in the Gambia, from Biti Banjul to the remote communities of Basse, the struggle is clear. For individuals, access to money is never simple. Only 19% of adults use formal financial services, with 75% of rural residents unbanked. Banks are hours away along poor roads. People travel long distances only to be refused because their documents aren't recognized.
And this is definitely a type of stuff where you know, blockchain fits in. A Stellar, a Algorand, a Hedera, they're built for this type of work. Definitely.
Remittance and aid transfer fees reach 12 to 24%. Funds can be delayed 7 to 21 days. Fees and unfair exchange rates cut into what little money remains. Without financial knowledge, many are unsure how to use the tools that could help them. For
Yeah, I agree. Stellar, definitely strong. So definitely in my, some of my favorite, one of my favorites for sure.
NGOs, funds get trapped in banks, drained by fees, and weakened before reaching the field. Aid leakage can reach 30%, with another 10 to 30% lost to banking and logistics. Corrupt agents and middlemen divert money. Cash transport exposes staff to robbery. Lack of transparency erodes trust. Every day, both individuals and NGOs are failed by the same broken system. Freedom Pay Wallet is here to change this. So far, Freedom Pay Wallet has dispersed over 60,000 USDC across remote regions of the Gambia and Tanzania, impacting 400 plus people. For individuals, no more trips to distant banks, no more rejection. Funds appear instantly in a digital wallet. Freedom Pay Wallet runs training sessions so communities understand how to use the app confidently, supporting multiple transfer methods, including stablecoins like USDC.
USDC. That's enough there. I wanted to show y'all that, but Stellar has been cooking. And again, bringing this back to the Clarity Act in the United States crypto legislation, the Genius Act. USDC is one of the coins or dollars that they're using in these type of apps. That's a game changer. Spread the dollar. And then my last clip I got for y'all. This also speaks more on what's pretty much happening for the Algorands, for the Hederas, for the XDCs, the USDCs, all of that. Got a question. You would probably be interested in Katina Network. It's right in the same narrative and a mega sleeper, sort of like HBAR Stellar hybrid. Okay, I appreciate that. I'm going to look that one up. Kita Network. Let me put that in my notes there. Kita Network. Okay, got you. I'm gonna check that one out. All right, so this is what we got right here. And this is from a post from All In Crypto. He says, soon enough, we may be soon that we may be entering an era of crypto where Bitcoin will lose dominance and narratives will shift to altcoins with real world use cases. That's what a lot of us have banked on. Hasn't happened yet. Let's see.
Entering this new era for crypto where we're going to move away from Bitcoin. Mark my words on this. I actually think the new bull, when it starts, will be led by specific altcoins popping off due to their fundamental use cases. And I think we're getting to this point now where Bitcoin is going to consistently lose dominance and is going to go through its own internal issues. And once there's that narrative shift towards the more broader altcoin sector, you're talking about an extremely small industry that, in terms of percentages, it can kind of make with all the compressed price action that it's been undergoing, can be pretty spectacular. I mean, this really is ahead of us. So to sort of come back to Bitcoin's price, this is what it did on the back end of all of this. And our base, there's this kind of rotation taking place. We knew it was coming, but we thought it would happen in a more bullish context, and that is of like the IWM outperforming the SPY, broke out against the NASDAQ for the first time. This continues as we see more in reality companies that aren't just based on the kind of internet come back into favor with the kind of disruption that we're seeing in the internet SaaS tech sector due to AI. There's this big question around AI and the kind of apocalypse that it may or may not cause. And I think when you compound everything going on geopolitically, crypto internally, still no answers for the 10th of October. You talk about the
so not the best clip, to be honest, but I understand what he's trying to say here. He's saying the rotation. So if you got small caps like in the IWM, the Russell 2000, growing as money flows out of the NVIDIAs or the Mag 7. Okay, the AST, the Space Mobile Labs. You got Rocket Labs. You got the companies like Palantir. That's a little larger. Those type of companies absorbing money, moving out of NVIDIA, moving out of Apple. Crypto we see or want is Bitcoin, money to flow out of Bitcoin, flow into the Algorand's, the Stellars, the XRPs, the smaller coins. And it's because those coins actually do have better technologies for what they do. Bitcoin still makes sense because Bitcoin is the crypto OG. However, we have proven on many streams and videos that other chains, other blockchains have the technology for the world that we are in and are in moving towards. We just talked about Stellar Lumens with the Marshall Islands payment systems out there in Tanzania, the Gambia, and many countries working. Algorand has a Hisab Pay, the Alpha Markets. Okay, Hedera is also working towards AI agent infrastructure, just like Algorand. These blockchains are way more fit and suitable than, let's say, in Ethereum that is still trying to be upgraded, that is still trying to put itself in a position to scale. We already have scalable blockchains. I just named them. We have blockchains that have tokenization. They have the compliance. They have the speed. They have the security. All they need is the adoption and more users. And with platforms like the wallet I just showed you, with businesses and apps like Moonwell, all these type of things here leads to adoption. And then eventually, we'll get competitors to JP Morgan and them. I'm not quite sure right now because they still hold a lot of power. But if there's billions of people on the planet, these blockchains and the products that are being built on them should and will at some point be able to scale. And we might need a flush out like people think is going to happen with AI. People are saying the one that could crash like the .com bubble is more likely to be OpenAI rather than, let's say, an Anthropic. You get some software companies, maybe a Salesforce goes down because of AI, but not a Palantir. See where I'm going with this? So if we look at the same thing for crypto, you might get a random coin, a meme coin, a hype, a Doge or something not be as powerful, or maybe even Ethereum. Then you might get an XRP, a Stellar, maybe a Hedera or Algorand rise up and become what we all think and want. So that's what I got for y'all in today's live stream. We talked about the Crypto Clarity Act, the bill, what could happen if it passes the way it is, and what we all want to happen, which is the rewards come to us, the users. Talk to y'all about some Algorand and Stellar news as well. Make sure y'all hit the hype button, y'all. Hit the hype button. Hype this video up. Hype this live stream. Like it. Leave a comment so that way it can hit the algorithm. We can keep growing and put out some solid information for y'all. Once again, I appreciate y'all for tapping in. See Will with the Passive Income Network. Until the next time, y'all.
Passive income. Gold in my dental. Thank God for my mental. Investor fundamentals. Told my girl it was simple.